A long time ago, I talked on this channel about Robin, one of the game's first Trapmasters. Now let's revisit this subclass with Wulfenite. Wulfenite belongs to one of the most difficult subclasses to use for many players for various reasons that we'll explore throughout this video. To start with, keep in mind that these operators are placed in ranged unit slots, and when deployed, they grant you mines that you can place in melee unit spaces on the map. These operators' abilities depend on the mines. If you don't have any mines placed, you won't be able to take advantage of the operators' abilities, so keep this in mind when using any of these operators. Perhaps the most important factor to keep in mind is that mines cost DP to place, which means you have to manage your DP generation very carefully, whether by using vanguards that generate DP quickly, or by learning to manage the DP generated naturally. This is one of the main reasons why this subclass is often considered somewhat difficult to use. One very useful point to note is that mines are treated as if they were operators in certain scenarios, for example, at control towers, where operators are required to man them. If you place mines, the mines can claim these positions, saving you from having to spend operators on them, and you can control them without worrying about enemy units attacking. Now that we've covered the general characteristics of this class, let's move on to its talent, Explorer's Stash. This talent affects the maximum number of mines we can store, up to 4 at Elite 2, but it also affects how this operator's mines function, since we must manually activate them for them to explode. This is what sets her apart significantly from the other operators in this subclass, since the mines of other operators are triggered when enemies step on them. Therefore, having the ability to activate them manually completely changes the strategy for how to use her in each level. Now let's move on to her abilities. Her first ability, for scaring beasts. This ability causes mines to deal increased physical damage and stun affected enemies when they explode. At level 7, the damage increases 210%, with a stun lasting up to 2.5 seconds. These types of effects are very common among operators like this, allowing each one to excel in different ways without competing directly with one another. These effects are very useful in game modes like integrated strategies, if you obtain the right relics, but they also help keep enemies in check that are particularly difficult to defeat. Effects like the stun are very useful, because they also help cancel attacks, so you might find them useful for interrupting the attack of a boss that isn't immune to this effect. Regarding her second ability, for stubborn rocks. This ability is more offensive than the previous one, as the mine's explosion radius will increase, and when any of the mines is triggered, the rest of the deployed mines will explode simultaneously, dealing increased damage, and also reducing the physical defense of affected enemies by 5 seconds, reaching 220% damage with a 25% reduction at level 7. This ability can be either very simple or very difficult to use, since you can deploy the mines in a straight line, or spread them across the map, so that when you trigger them, they affect enemies throughout the map, requiring much more precise timing. Therefore, everything will depend on how you choose to utilize this ability. Just keep in mind that the defense reduction is not stackable. In other words, if the explosions from 2 mines hit the same enemy, their defense won't drop by 50%, the reduction will always be 25%, regardless of how many mines hit them. As for her module, TRPY, Mineral Display Cabinet. This module provides some interesting effects. At level 1, it gives a 20% chance that the placed mine will deal double damage, and starting at level 2, mines will deal extra damage if there are 2 or more enemies within their blast radius. However, since this subclass is a bit complicated to use, I only recommend unlocking it if you really plan to use this, or any other Trapmaster. Finally, regarding its base skills, her first ability focuses on reducing the capacity limit of items produced in the factory in exchange for increasing its productivity. However, at Elite 2, its capacity limit doubles, while energy consumption is reduced, making it a good option for maximizing the number of items produced in factories. In my personal opinion, Trapmaster is a subclass that's hard to recommend, because it requires a lot of attention to timing. You have to know the best moment to activate the mines, as well as careful management of DP, especially at the start of the level. If you're really interested in this operator, know that you'll have to invest a lot of time to make the most of its capabilities. for this reason. I think it's not very common to see many people using it, and those who know how to use it can definitely pull off some amazing feats when completing levels. Well, that's all for this guide. I think it's been longer than usual, but since this subclass has so many factors to consider, I wanted to make sure I didn't leave out anything important. Anyway, I hope this has helped you better understand how this operator and this subclass work. Without further ado, I'll say goodbye, take care, and see you next time.